Jason Dickinson is out for the year, and it's Mailbag Tuesday. Lots of question about the Blackhawks defensive core and Kevin Korchinski coming up next on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use the code CHGO365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jay Zawaski. That's Mario Tirabassi.
Hello.
We are here for you for the next hour. It is Mailbag Tuesday. Tons of great questions, but we're going to start the show quickly with what's brewing, presented by our friends at Sam Adams. Jason Dickinson out for the season. Sam Adams American Light, bringing that to you. You were there at practice today. Sure, it was kind of a bummer of an atmosphere when that news came out.
Yeah, I mean, we got that from Anders. That was after we had been in the room, so wasn't able to really. I mean, we had no clue that he was done for the year. Talking to some of the players, but I'm sure tomorrow there'll be at least an optional morning skate before the game. Might get some insight from some of the guys there about losing Dickinson. But yeah, I mean, that's so rough for the team and for him personally. I mean, coming off of last year, career year for him, you could tell, like, even though last year was a rough season,
yeah,
he was producing 22 goals last year for him. I mean, he was, worthy of being in the conversation of like, hey, Jason Dickinson should get some recognition for the Selke Award. And this year it has just been a slog for him. I think you saw last week after the Seattle game, just him venting personal frustrations with himself and how his game has been this year and how the team has gone. Like, I think it's definitely worn on him. He's missed time with various injuries this year, and now, after the hit to Alec Martinez, which somehow he's only day-to-day in Anders Sorensen's eyes after that hit, which that was surprising to me. Dickinson stands up for Martinez taking that hit, gets into the fight with Neighbors, and did something bad enough to his wrist that his year's done.
I went back and watched the replay of the fight and didn't see anything, because sometimes when a guy will be hurt in a fight, you'll see him say to the guy, hey,
stop.
I'm hurt. And but Dickinson was holding Neighbors with his left hand and throwing punches with the right. He wasn't throwing them hard, but I didn't notice anything weird.
There was one point where it kind of was like, I remember watching it and just being like, they're not really fighting. And I don't know if it was maybe the first punch or something, but like it looked like kind of like Dickinson was kind of just like not comfortable in it. So who knows? So
at the time, I thought, when I saw that, I agree with you, but I thought it was both of them being concerned for Martinez.
Right, yeah.
Because it was a sort of hit where, you make that hit, you're going to have to fight. Neighbors knew he was going to have to fight. Dickinson knew he was going to have to fight. But they both kind of took a look to make sure Martinez was okay.
Yeah.
And then
he wasn't.
He wasn't really, but he was not unconscious or anything like that.
Right.
And then they began their sort of half-hearted fight. But it's bad news for him.
Sucks.
And you're right about his year. Like, good defensively, of course.
Yeah, he's still doing that.
But just the offense, like, most nights he was not very noticeable.
Yeah.
But he's a good player. He's a proud player. And I think, put back into a role that fits him more, the numbers might go down. But you're going to still see him thrive defensively, provide leadership, kill penalties, do all the little things needed to win games.
Yeah.
They won't need his offense so much in the next few years as they bring guys up to add offense on their own.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who is that defensive first forward. I think last year, the 20 goals surprised pretty much everybody. maybe even himself.
Probably
that,
him too, yeah.
that he had
Right.
the opportunity to get that much. But I mean, when you're hot, you're hot, and I think he had that hot season, made the most of it, and I think now 7 goals this year seems a little bit low for him, for what his capabilities could be. But I think having a 20-goal season is not the expectation for Jason Dickinson moving forward. Yeah, I mean he's under contract through next season. We'll see what happens with the young forwards coming in, who's going to be in and out, and what they do in free agency and trades and stuff, and how next season shapes up with where guys are going to find their spots in the lineup. But he's still a guy that is going to be an asset to this team next year, and it depends on how he plays moving forward. But he could be a guy that you keep around. He's a good vet, like a pro's pro. Seems to be a guy that approaches the game the right way and is part of that leadership group. Like, could be someone that sticks around for a little bit as more of the young guys find their footing in the NHL.
I'm here for that. All right, that was What's Brewing, presented by Sam Adams American Light. Get yourself some. It's really damn good. We'll tell you more about that later in the show.
It is.
All right, Sarah, should we begin the mailbag portion of the show? All right, let's do it. First one here comes from King Tanner.
So much to get to today.
And this is by the way, King Tanner, a diehard, a CHGO diehard, and asked a question on the Discord, so our diehards get priority on mailbag shows. And you may have seen this video going around, Frank Saravalli at the Daily Faceoff discussing which team's future would you rather have, the Sharks or the Blackhawks. And during this conversation, he kind of went through Levshinov, Rinzel, Vlasic, all the defensemen the Hawks have in the system, and that's what leads to King Tanner's question. Saravalli mentioned the Hawks have an embarrassment of riches on the blue line. Is there any D-men you guys wouldn't mind moving on from, and would you care to keep Murph for a couple more years after next season to mentor the others coming up? So 2 questions there. Do you keep Murphy beyond his current contract, which expires after next year? Why don't we start with that one? Because I'm going to say no. I love the guy. He's given you everything he's got and more, but with the injury history, I don't know how much more healthy NHL time Connor Murphy has left.
Yeah, I think you keep him around next year through the season. I mean, we'll see how things shape up by next year's trade deadline or whatnot, but I feel like he's a guy that, a lot like Jason Dickinson, like has a lot of benefit to mentoring some of these young players. But you are going to have some young guys kind of more in that vet role. I think Alex Vlasic is a player that can be looked at as a vet through next season.
Yeah.
And again, like it could be someone in free agency, someone through the trade that they also have that's that more veteran presence amongst the young guys. But you definitely don't want too much of that, because then you're going to start blocking guys who you're expecting to invest in the defensive group, invest time in them and in their development and everything. And as Saravalli says, like, you have a lot of guys. You have like 9 guys right now that you could look at and be like, yeah, they project to be NHL defensemen, and some of them very impactful.
Well, and he's talking about Sam Rinzel. He used the name Brock Faber in comparison to Sam Rinzel, saying not so much the player comp, but the impact made. And he talks about Rinzel almost as the Hawks' #1 defensive prospect. Now, Frank is probably higher on Sam Rinzel than others.
Maybe.
But the fact that someone is plugged in as Frank is even having that conversation is really meaningful. So when you do look down the line,
you could make that case for Rinzel.
Sure. And if he is, and you're 1, 2, 3, Rinzel, Levshinov, Vlasic, all of a sudden, we got a lot of questions about him coming up in the show, and we'll try to get to all of them, but there might be some overlap. Like, Kevin Korchinski might become a really valuable trade chip, and you don't know how things are going to work. You don't know who's going to develop at what pace. But if you have any sort of thought that Kevin Korchinski hasn't handled Rockford or hasn't dominated in Rockford as much as you thought he would in his first year there, maybe you're a little more willing. Maybe he's gotten, leapfrogged by a few guys. We should say, by the way, every defenseman develops differently. He is still only 20. And we have talked about this with Levshinov. Some players, especially those that are highly skilled, like Kevin Korchinski, simply do better in the NHL because of the style of play. So I don't know if that's been the case with Korchinski, that he's fallen out of favor in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But if Renzel is what some think he is, and then if you get the number 1 pick and take Matthew Schaefer, like,
see, and that's another.
That's a whole other thing.
We have a whole other question, whole other category of questions to get
we'll
there.
Address that in a couple months. But I mean, really, they do have a depth of defensemen, and if you want to trade for some other organization's forward version of Kevin Korchinski, it's not gonna Wyatt Kaiser, Ethan Del Mastro, Nolan Allen. We like all those guys. They're not going to get a major trade done without a whole bunch more thrown in.
Well, yeah, without adding a little extra to it. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I'd hate to get rid of any of these guys because I feel like a lot of them at the top of that group have top pair potential. But yeah, I mean, you look at it up and down, and you might have too many, and you can only play 6 in the NHL at a time. So, yeah, I think it's a bridge that I hope if they have to cross it, it's for the betterment of the organization moving forward, and it's not we have to get rid of this guy for negative reasons or anything like that. I wouldn't say that there's anything to worry about in that case, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it feels like we still have to see Sam Renzel as an NHL player,
right?
As a pro, not even just NHL, but like.
Speaking of Frank, he bet a guy today on Twitter $1,000 that Sam Renzel would play in the NHL this season.
Good bet by Frank.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a good bet. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to trade anybody. I like these guys are all really good, but
there's no need to do anything now.
No, you don't have to do anything now.
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot of puzzle pieces to be put into place before you get to that point. But I mean, if I had to pick a guy, I would say like probably Korchinski. But again, that's like,
who would be hairs, regardless of return. Like if say, is there one guy that you think like of the group might not pan out to be an everyday NHL defenseman? If we're talking about Del Mastro, Allen, Kaiser, Crevier, I don't know if I'd even throw Crevier in that category. I think he's in like the B tier.
Yeah. If I'm.
Who are you betting against? And we'll clip this and send it to them.
Who personally. Am I betting $1,000 against that won't play in the NHL?
Which Blackhawk defenseman sucks the most, Mario? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't wait to
all right, maybe
be back in the locker room with them. No, I don't know. I mean, if I'm pulling a name out of a hat, it might be Nolan Allen, but again, like I feel like all these guys have NHL futures,
and he looks so good earlier in the year.
Yeah. And again, rookie year, like he's figuring things out. Like there's no guy that I'm looking at as just like, oh, absolutely not, bust, no potential there.
Well, and Michael Evans says in the chat, like he says Kaiser, and that was my thought probably 3 months ago. But now when I look at the way he's played since his most recent call up, I'm like,
yeah, right, yeah,
I don't know, like he's been really good.
Yeah. It feels like each week you could look at a different defenseman and be like, they might be at the bottom of the list, or they might be at the bottom. And at the bottom of the list is like, you're probably going to play in the NHL, but it might not be in Chicago. Like, I'd say for a lot of these guys, that's good,
and that's fine. Yeah,
you can have an NHL career.
Take it, sure. And Jay Bird's Music says I go back and forth on Kaiser. One day it's shades of Keith, the next it's Gustafsson. Yeah, and like the thing about the way the Hawks have done this too is they've got a nice spread of you've got kind of purely offense in Kevin Korchinski. I think his D will improve, primarily offense. Yeah. I think you would say Lev Shinov is probably 60-40 offense, defense.
Mm-hmm.
You got mostly defense with Del Mastro, Vlasic,
Allen.
And Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kaiser is kind of that wild card in terms of moving the puck and what will his offensive numbers ultimately be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a lot of interesting pieces here. And I think what you can do, because you don't have to make this decision now, is see how things go. Give guys looks, see how they develop, and say, okay, maybe the offense isn't going to come as much as we expected from this guy, so maybe he's now a trade piece. I don't know. They've got a lot of ammo. They've got nothing but cap space. They got 1 million draft picks. If they want to make something happen, they certainly can. All right, we got to hit the break zone for the first time. All right, we got one question in. Good pace. Way to go. Back in a moment with more of your questions on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, powered by Bet365.
Speaking of Bet365,
Yes.
and $1,000 bets on Twitter with randoms, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers can right now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up and use the code CHGO365. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. And right now with Bet365, early payout offers, you are a winner with an NHL bet if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. You can download the app again, use the code CHGO365 when you sign up and get those early payout benefits. New customers can now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. And use that code CHGO365. You're going to get that bonus. It must be 21 or older, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
And light beer just got better. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. It's clean, it's crisp, it's super easy to drink. There's no gimmicks, there's no fluff. There's nothing like a nice spring evening after a hard day of talking hockey, going home and cracking open a Sam Adams American Light, taking that edge off. It's not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients. Take that, tariffs, from local independent farmers. That's light beer that's made right. Light beer should not feel or taste, I added that, like a compromise. It's an American classic, so smooth you'll want to crack open another one. It's always Sam season. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light. Available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly. And before we get to the rest of your questions, I have failed at my job to remind you to smash that like button for us and make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. I know, it's brutal. And if you're catching up on the podcast, we love you. Make sure you're following or subscribed on your favorite podcast app as well. Okay, question number 2. As we fly through these.
2 of 2 dozen today. Yeah, tons of them.
This one from our buddy BJD, who is at the takeover this weekend. He says, Donato clearly wants more money or term. While the Hawks can overpay him with their cap situation currently for shorter term, how high would you be willing to go money-wise, knowing that they'll want to unload him at the end of his contract to try and keep his trade value up? So the offer on the table, reportedly, is 3 years, $12 million. So it'd be $4 million cap hit for the next 3 years. Apparently, that's not enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the case since it hasn't been signed, if it's reportedly on the table.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the money that I'd be comfortable going to keep him around, I would say 4.5, 5, if it's on like a 3-year deal. But I think if Donato wants more than 3 years, which that's up to him.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's bounced around from team to team for, what has he got, 5 teams in a 7-year career or something like that, six and a half seasons. Like, it's crazy how much he's bounced around. But he's got, a young kid now and wants to find a team that he'll be able to kind of settle into the city, put down roots. And if it can be in here in Chicago, that's great. But I think if he's wanting 4 or 5 years, I'm not as jazzed about that.
Yeah, for me, if he wants term, I'm not going to go up to 5. 3 years, $5 million. I don't love it, but looking at the fact that the Hawks need to spend basically $64 million to get to the cap floor, it's not a huge issue. I don't think it will be a huge issue.
No, and the cap's going to keep going up. So like $5 million for a guy like Ryan Donato, who in 2 to 3 years is probably still a third line guy that's, can play on the penalty kill, on the power play, can produce if you need him to, which hopefully you don't need him to play that role in 3 years. $5 million for a player like that is going to be market value or under.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
likely.
It just, I think just because of what you said, the Hawks are his 5th team since 2017-18.
Yeah.
If he wants the term and the security, I'm a little less willing to go any higher than 5. Because love the guy, works his ass off. All the things you said about him are correct. that he will still be a good penalty killer, be a good forechecker, do all the things you need him to do. But you can't overpay everyone for 4 or 5 years just because you can do it now. Because eventually, Bedard's going to need a new contract. Levshinov's going to need a new contract. Nazar's going to need a new contract.
Yeah.
Korchinski's going to need on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And while,
Spencer Knight's only got one more year left on his deal.
And you did burn a lot of the first years for a lot of these guys, and you might be doing that with Levshinov coming up here. It should keep it cheaper. It's also going to get them to that big contract more quickly too.
Potentially, yeah.
So you got to be a little bit careful. You can be a little bit reckless, but if I'm Kyle Davidson and I'm really overpaying someone, it is to convince a top free agent to come here and play here. If it's going to be Mitch Marner, tell me your best offer, we're going to add $2 million to it. Mm-hmm. Fine. That I'm comfortable with, because you can't go find a Mitch Marner very easily.
No, you can't.
You can, no offense, but you can find yourself a Ryan Donato.
You could. Yeah.
All right, let's do another one. This one from Blue Tobias.
He's pretty blue in that picture.
He's gone and blew himself. Mailbag question says, looking forward to the offseason moves. Is it reasonable to think that Kevin Korchinski is the Blackhawks' most desirable prospect that the Hawks will be willing to move? This is sort of what we've been talking about. I assume Levshinov is the most attractive to other teams, but I don't think the Hawks would be willing to move him. I think that's
fair.
In terms of prospects, they'd be willing to move. Yes, I would think Korchinski would be the top of that list.
Willing to move and value on to other teams. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Well,
because they're not trading.
Use the whole first segment on.
They're not trading Levshinov.
No,
they're not trading
not at
Bedard,
all.
So yeah,
no.
In terms of appeal around the league, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Rick 22 again from the Discord says, assuming history repeats itself and guys like Renzel, Moore, Green, Lardis, etc., signed before the end of the NHL regular season, who do you think we'll see play, and what do you think the lineup would look like? Who would get scratched for who? Thanks.
Well, so Lardis is already signed.
Lardis is signed already,
yeah,
right?
So those CHL guys can sign and still play in juniors. Yeah, so I'd say if Renzel, Moore, Green, probably Aiden Thompson too, if those guys all sign, I'd imagine they all play. And, right now you've got injuries to Alec Martinez, Colton Dock, who, as we said before, Martinez is day-to-day. Doc is, I guess you'd call him day-to-day because he's not out right now. But they're just going to see how he progresses. But you have those two guys out. You just lost Jason Dickinson. So you could look at the lineup and say, like, okay, if we're putting in a defenseman and potentially 3 forwards, I think you can...
The spots are there.
You can scratch Kurashev.
You can scratch Maroon.
I know it's the Maroon retirement party, but you can scratch him.
You could scratch Reichel. You've done it before. You could scratch Veleno.
That's who I was going to say. I'd say the 3 forwards that I'd be easiest to scratch are Veleno, Maroon, and Kurashev. You could throw Thompson, Moore, and Green in there. And then defensively,
Crevier.
And then you put Sam Renzel in there as well. Yeah, and then, depending on when their seasons end, I know Lardis is already signed. He could potentially join the Ice Hogs towards the end of the year and, be around for them. Spellacy is a guy, too, also under contract. He could do I think it's an ATO would be his way to, be around Rockford. I don't know if he would actually play, but he'd be able to be around those guys. Yeah, so there are options on the table. I know Martin Misiak is another one that could do that as well whenever his season ends.
Yeah, there are definitely spots we could be looking at. Vlasic, Renzel, Del Mastro, Murphy, Kaiser, Levshinov down the stretch. That's pretty fun.
That is fun.
And why not call up Kevin Korchinski just for funsies?
Yeah, you have one more call up to use. Why not?
Just get a look. Let's get a glimpse of the future.
Sure.
That'd be a lot of fun. All right, Sarah, who do we got next?
Brad.
B-Rad
says,
that's what the cool kids call him.
What is with all the national personalities crapping on the Hawks every chance they get, and 3/4 of them clearly don't know any of the Hawks prospects? It makes it very annoying to be a Hawks fan, considering half of our fans are dumb and feed off it. These are Brad's words. I'm over the KD is in over his head hot takes.
Wow. Thanks for reading Blackhawks beat yesterday, Brad, where I addressed this very specific thing. And you are a diehard, so you can read it, but that's okay. There's a couple factors here. The Hawks are an easy target for several reasons. They're high profile, so talking about them will cause reaction, will cause interaction on the old YouTube shorts or TikToks or Instagram reels, whatever it might be.
Face talk.
You've also have very recent scandals with the team, from Kyle Beach to Corey Perry, varying levels of scandal, of course, but
they're still on the hook for those.
There's still people, and that, again, even if they're not Hawks fans, people don't like the Hawks, and people are upset that a lot of people believe that the draft was rigged in the Hawks' favor so they can get Connor Bedard. I get why people would think of that conspiracy. It makes a lot of sense for the health of the league to have the Hawks be good or relevant. I just don't. All that aside, anyone paying attention to what is actually happening in the Hawks system, and don't listen to us, go look at the people whose job it is to analyze prospects, the Scott Wheelers, the Corey Pronmans, on and on and on. All the people we have, Cam Robinson, all the people we have on all the time.
Chris Peters,
of course.
Stephen Ellis.
They all love what the Hawks have done. They all love what's happening in the Hawks system. It's right there. And again, that video we referenced with Frank Saravalli, I don't know who the other guy he was talking to.
Jason Greger.
Thank you, Jason Greger. Was like, why the Sharks? I think the Sharks, because they've got a few more prospects. And then Frank sort of challenged him and said, no, not really. Like, aside from Sam Dickinson, what do they have coming down the pipe that's on the level of some of the stuff the Hawks have? And when you do the work and you do the research, you'll see that the Hawks rebuild is in very good shape. And every retort I got yesterday to my Blackhawks beat was, they've got this many wins this year. Like, that's not the rebuild. Right. What's happening in 1901 West Madison is not the rebuild.
Right.
It's part of it.
Yeah. The team was, on paper, at the beginning of the season, supposed to be better than their win-loss record is right now. But slightly. Slightly, yeah. But that hasn't panned out. And they've moved forward with more rebuild plans than they did with, hey, let's try and be competitive now kinds of plans. They fired Luke Richardson and they put Andrew Sorensen in his place, who is a development coach. They didn't sign a head coach. They didn't get Todd McLennan or anyone like that was potentially available when they fired Richardson. They went in-house with Sorensen and then right after they put Sorensen in that spot, here's Colton Dock, here's Frank Nazar, here's Del Mastro, here, have all your kids up there and develop them. That's what they went with. So yeah, I think, if you are looking at the bird's eye view of what the Blackhawks are doing, this is what a rebuild looks like. They had to start over with their prospect system, and they've gotten it to a place where, you were in the bottom quarter of the NHL as far as prospect systems go when Kyle Davison took over. Now you're one of the 5 best in the NHL, depending on who you ask.
Remember, his first draft, he had 0 first-round picks.
To start the day, he had 0 first-round picks, and he walked away with Korchinski, Nazar, and Renzel.
Yeah.
3 guys that very likely all factor into the future of the organization getting back to that, playoff contender status.
All right, a couple super chats before we hit the break zone. Windy City Hockey, $2 says Blackhawks built the D first, and it's a smart way to do it. Yeah. Agree with that. And the Giggities with another $2 says, any update on Dominic James?
That I'm surprised. His season's been over since Minnesota Duluth lost in the NCHC tournament. They're not playing in the NCAA tournament. Kyle Davidson, when he spoke with Ben Pope earlier this year, had high praise for Dominic James. He's played for 3 seasons in college. He missed basically all of last year due to injury. I think the expectation was that he would probably turn pro, but if it hasn't happened yet, makes me feel like something on one end of the equation isn't lining up. Whether it's his interest in joining the Hawks or if it's the Hawks' interest in bringing him in, not sure. I thought he would be a signing, but if it hasn't happened yet, it kind of feels like it won't.
Well, I mean, it could be too that Davidson's looking at it and saying like, well, these are the spots I have. Like he didn't trade.
It could
Maroon.
happen.
Maybe,
it could happen in the
off
offseason.
Trade Donato at the deadline. There's a couple more open spots he was counting on.
Yeah, it could still happen in the offseason.
Yeah. So, but he might just be saying, I envision on my depth chart of guys I want to get looks at right away. These are them. Here's the spaces we have. So Dominic will talk to you in the summer or next year, whatever it might be. All right. Got to hit the break zone again. Make sure you hit that like button if you've not already. 55 likes. That's not good. We got to do better than that. Come on. We got almost 200 people watching.
It's a mailbag show.
Yeah. Please hit that like button for us.
We need to get to more likes than questions. And right now we don't have,
we
don't have that ratio.
All right. Back in a moment on CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, powered by Bet365. And we've been telling you now for probably a couple years about our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. It's your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. And I know what you're saying, like, Jay, I've never gone to a dispensary before, and now I feel like I'm way behind the 8 ball, and I don't want to go in there and feel stupid and feel like a dork and not know what I'm looking for. Nerd. It's Sunnyside. Don't worry about that. They are passionate about cannabis, and who isn't? They're going to help you. Whatever you need, the people at Sunnyside are going to make you get it. If you want to sleep, they'll help you sleep. If you want to disappear into the couch for a few hours, cool. If you want something to help you battle your stress a little bit, take off some aches and pains, to help you with that. Do you want to disappear into the couch like Mario's doing? They can help you do that too. Whatever you need, whatever you want, Sunnyside is going to help you get that experience. They've got over 100 strains to choose from and easy online ordering and in-store pickup. They are Illinois' favorite dispensary. They've got locations in Wrigleyville and River North, Champaign, South Beloit, and more. And they've got the expert guidance at Sunnyside in brands they know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's, which just so happen to be my 2 favorite brands. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Use that promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
I don't know how out of shape I am. My hamstring just cramped up when I was doing that
welcome,
slide.
buddy. You're over 35. Injured doing nothing.
Yeah, and according to the Blackhawks, 35, you might as well be dead. Did you see that video?
I did see that video. I'm Team Levshinov, baby.
Yeah, when you stop moving, that's when you're old.
That's right.
According to him. And hey, whether you're 35 and dead or you're 120 and dead, what happens in between is sometimes messy and confusing, but you don't want your finances to be messy and confusing. That's where Monarch Money comes in and acts as your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop just earning money and start growing your money. It's more than your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. I think of like the Matrix with like all the computers, command center for your money.
Sure.
Yeah. Plug me into that.
A small command center, but...
Not with Monarch Money, Jay. They'll grow it for you.
Fair.
Big old command center. Don't just manage your money. Start building wealth with 50% off of your first year for our great CHGO listeners. You can start managing your finances to build the life you want. Monarch makes managing money simple, easy, even for the busiest of lives. You can track your spending, saving, and investments effortlessly so you can focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality. Monarch Money is the finance tool people actually love. It was named the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. So get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO at monarchmoney.com for half off of your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code CHGO.
All right. Do that. Any more super chats here? We got them all? All right, let's do another mailbagger. This one from Aziz, who we met at the Takeover. Nice to meet you, Aziz. He says, hey, everyone. I had an awesome time at the Takeover. Perfect game for that. Thanks to Mario and Jay for being wonderful hosts. Here are my 2 questions for today's mailbag. 1, realistically, what does the starting lineup look like for next season?
Oh, man.
And what positions should be filled via trade and free agency this offseason? 2, if the Hawks land outside the top 3 in the draft lottery this year, what is a realistic trade package for them to move up, let's say, from 4 to 2?
So the first question, That's an off-season topic of what does this lineup look like to start next season, because we don't know who's all going to be there. I think we'll save that. But the second part of that question, what position should be filled with free agency or trade? I think you want to get at least one top 6 forward. Could be a center, could be a wing, doesn't matter. You need one of them, at least one. So I think if they, via trade or free agency, bring in somebody, the dream is Mitch Marner. The more realistic addition could be Brock Besser or Nikolai Ehlers or potentially Sam Bennett. Like, if you have one of those guys added into the mix, that makes your team better. So I think for me, that's the kind of player that I want at the top of the target board for free agent or trade moves.
If you've been reading too, what Scott Powers has been writing lately, he does seem to think they want to add a veteran defenseman, which is a little bit surprising considering, how many young guys they've got coming up. And I'm wondering, and we basically found out like the end of this year is to see who is ready for next year, who they can count on to theoretically play 82 games in the NHL as a young defenseman. So we'll see if they, like somebody like Aaron Ekblad, but isn't he going to want a pretty decently sized deal? Like, I don't know if I'm going long term on anybody like that. I'm with you, 30. Mario. He's 29.
Yeah. He's
going to want 6 years probably.
He's going to want his last contract.
Yeah.
I think is what it would be. That would be surprising, but also, it doesn't seem completely out of the question that maybe Sam Renzel starts the year next year in Rockford.
Yeah.
Maybe Levshinov starts the year in Rockford. I mean, again, we talk about patience and not rushing these guys, and we've seen before, with Korchinski this year. He played all of last year in the NHL because that was best for his development because he couldn't go to the AHL. This year he could, and he's played almost all year in the AHL. Alex Vlasic got a taste of the NHL once he turned pro, but then spent time in Rockford. Right. Wasn't a full-time NHLer right out of college.
And we all said, too, oh, well, he's in. Vlasic's in for next year and then spent the whole year in Rockford.
Yeah. So I mean, their blueprint for defensemen specifically has been to take time. So they could do that.
I'm not going long term.
I don't want to do long term, but I also don't want, another 1 year defenseman. I mean, I know we're all assuming he's going to be bought out, but you do have TJ Brody under contract for one more year. So you do have a veteran defenseman for that team next year. But I just, I would not want him to be part of that group or taking time away from a young guy.
I'm looking at UFAs.
It's not great.
Do you want 40-year-old Brent Burns? I mean, I would enjoy that.
Could be fun.
I'd love to cover him, but I don't know if the Hawks have a need for a 40-year-old defenseman.
I mean,
he's pretty effective.
Yeah, but I don't want to. Yeah.
Dmitry Orlov is 33. Aaron Ekblad, 29. Ivan Provorov, 28. No. Jeff Petrie is 37. Neil Pionk, 29.
Pionk is 29.
He's going to get a bigger deal, too. This is going to be his biggest deal. He makes 5.8 now. Someone's going to pay Neil Pionk a lot of money.
Yeah.
Gavrikov, Ryan Lindgren, David Savard, Cody Ceci, Brian Dumoulin. Like, now we're looking like in the 30s. You want to bring Henry Jokiharju back?
A lot of 6 and 7 defensemen, if you ask me.
Yeah, not a lot of interest here.
And that, I mean, I'm sure those guys will play full time in the NHL next year as more than that. But to me, if you're bringing in a veteran guy, like I want somebody who by November we're not like get this Jamoke out of here and.
Where are you gonna
because
go
he's was that?
Yeah, what did you correct yourself from something to Jamoke?
I don't know. That's less offensive than just calling him a.
Well, I found
bum.
the answer here. 33 years old, 9 years of NHL experience. Jared Tenorti, UFA, bring him back. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised if they bring in a defenseman. They don't have to.
And you know what? It could be a guy that's veteran defenseman, but maybe he's 26. It could be someone that's a traded player, not a free agent.
Yeah, trades are a big part of what Kyle Davidson does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Foligno was a trade. Dickinson was a trade. The only real free agent signings he's made have been Tavo and Bertuzzi, really. Brody.
The big ones, yeah.
Yeah. So most of the important transactions that he's pulled off have come completely out of the blue and have been trades.
Foligno was he expiring his deal? Yeah. No. He had one. He had 1 year.
Left.
Yeah. Taylor Hall
had a year left.
Those were trade. Perry was technically a trade.
Perry was a
They
trade.
traded for him and then signed him.
Traded for his rights.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, there haven't been a ton of free agent bring-ins before this year. Mikheyev was a trade. You know,
RFAs are a lot more interesting.
Well,
Noah Dobson, Evan Bouchard, Keandre Miller, Bowen Byram.
I'll take all of them, please.
Trade the current decor.
Yeah, trade everyone in the decor for all those guys.
Michael says could bring Martinez back. That would shock me.
I would be surprised, but maybe. Probably not.
All right, on the Korchinski beat, we're going to jump over to Twitter for a second. Bedard Enthusiast says, even though Korchinski is a big part of our decor, are you willing to trade him for an NHL proven and ready player under 23? Yes.
Sure.
He says, if you do that, do you change your mind on who you prefer in the draft this year? So if you trade Korchinski ahead of the draft, are you then a little more, I guess, aggressive in pursuing Matthew Schaefer? Like, do you really want to get him?
If you trade Korchinski for a NHL-ready defenseman.
Did you say defenseman?
That's what he said.
Okay.
Right? That was the question.
I'm assuming he meant forward, but we'll go with it.
It said defenseman.
Yeah.
No, if you're saying like we want,
he says proven and ready player under 23.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say.
I mean, if it's Korchinski for another defenseman just to fast track and have an NHL ready person, I don't think you then would go Schaefer. But yeah, if you're doing it for a forward, then yeah, I would say you're probably looking at. Again, it matters where they land in the lottery, because if you land number 1, then you obviously have the pick of the lot.
Trade out of it.
And Schaefer is still widely regarded the number 1 guy, but there's a lot of people who believe Michael Misa is in that conversation as well.
But Schaefer is such a final puzzle piece for the Sharks, it seems.
Yeah, but if the Hawks get the number 1 spot, too bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or they go Misa with number 1. Who knows? It will depend on where they land in the lottery.
Maybe you just draft Schaefer to keep him away from the Sharks.
Sure. Yeah.
Looking ahead 5-6 years.
Yeah. Again, like, you're not necessarily in a spot where you're picking for need. You take the best player available, but I think this is a draft class where best player available is in the eye of the beholder. So if they get the number 1 pick, it's not I don't think it's a lock that it's Schaefer. It comes down to what the Hawks scouting staff feels is number 1, but it opens up. If you land 2, then you have one of those 2 guys is going to be available, Schaefer or Misa.
Right. All right, let's try to get one more in before the break zone here. From BG0903. We unanimously agreed on the unofficial Hawks Discord that Bedard needs to find that extra gear on ice. He's not always been fast, but could use speed. I think Bedard is learning backwards. He needs to slow the game down before he can speed it up. I do think he needs to add a step of speed. There have been times where we've seen him get caught from behind. Sometimes that's a result of a long shift.
Right.
Where he gets stuck out there for a while, and then the puck finally finds its way out to him, and he's out of gas. But I do think he needs to add a step, especially an explosive first step, so he can escape defenders more quickly.
Yeah, I think
he knows that too, by the way.
Right. You wouldn't tell him anything that he doesn't already know. Yeah, having that breakaway ability to create space would be nice. But again, like we've seen a lot of guys with his kind of with a similar skill set be able to not necessarily be straight line fast, but have that ability to weave through traffic, find space, be agile with the puck. Like that's all part of it. And I think he's got that ability, but yeah, having a little bit more of that ability to create space, if he's in step with somebody on a breakaway attempt, 9 times out of 10, he's not beating that person to the net or being able to drop the shoulder and drive to the middle. It's more or less he's even and then pulls up and looks for a trailer or something like that, or tries to get the shot off. But having that extra gear, as the question says, would be awesome. And it's not like he can't ever get faster. He's 19 still. Like, off-season programs can evolve, and he can add strength.
Ryan Bedard did it at 28.
Right. He can add strength in his legs to get that extra burst. Like, it's all possible.
100%. All right, one more break zone, and we'll be back in a moment. Make sure you do us a favor. Hit that like button. We still have not gotten 100 likes. You should be ashamed of yourselves, quite frankly. Sarah's still not feeling good, and
Sarah
still not
is
hitting
still
that like
sick,
button.
and it is all your fault.
Yes.
And you should feel bad.
Please. It takes 1 second to hit that like button and another second to hit subscribe. We'd appreciate that. Back in a moment on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, powered by Bet365.
And if you are in the market for a new vehicle, then you need to check out the March Radness sales event. Going on right now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with game-winning savings, like 0% financing for 60 months, $0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, plus 0 hidden fees on select new Chevy models. Or you can check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you're getting a great deal. Plus, with Ray's price promise, that lets you shop confidently because it is a guarantee of no add-ons, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks, meaning the price you see and hear is the price that you pay. You don't have to worry about prices changing, stressful negotiations, or any tricks. The people at Ray Chevrolet just want to help you get into the right vehicle at the right price. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner this March at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their March Radness sales event going on all month long for 0% financing on select new Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or go to raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's rad.
Yes, rad away. And
So
when you're
rad.
radding, you might need a little bit of help unwinding after all that radness.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when you need Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. If you've been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, the CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. Good thought.
Yes.
I'm not as young as I once was.
No.
No one is, really.
Don't tell that to the Blackhawks.
Except Benjamin Button, aging backwards. But I care a lot about maintaining my physical and mental wellness, especially the mental part. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are a huge piece of my wellness plan. They're great. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD. It's formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness, 3 things I suffer from often. All products are third-party lab tested and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. They're vegan and gluten-free also, Mario.
Nice.
They're made with full-spectrum CBD for maximum potency. And the fast, free shipping is featured on every order. Right now, Cornbread is offering CHGO listeners 30% off their first orders. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use that promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Rad stuff.
Tastes good. What? Yeah, let's go.
We got to get
What else
through
we got
this
going
mailbag.
on? David Garcia. Prediction time with a twist.
What a twist.
Who can be the future captain and alternates for the Hawks? The twist is
Go.
that Bedard can't be the captain. No hate on him. Just wanted to put a twist on it. P.S. Someone tell management to call up Samuel Savoie. Someone needs to add his feistiness a bit more.
Happy birthday to Samuel Savoie.
Oh, I thought it was David's birthday.
No, I don't know David's birthday.
It's also the Undertaker's birthday.
It's
Or was
also
that yesterday?
PCA's birthday today. He turned 23.
That's right.
Lots of birthdays going on today. 21 for Samuel Savoie. So enjoy some Sam Adams American Light for the first time ever, Samuel.
Yeah, that first beer is going to taste funny.
Gonna be good.
Yep.
What was the question? Oh, captains. If it's not Bedard, it really does feel like Alex Vlasic is the guy that would be the leader in the room of the next wave of
checks
of
a lot
Hawks,
of boxes
for sure. I think he has a voice in the room. It's grown in his time here, and I think as kind of the elder of that next wave, I think he's a guy that can be that voice, be that front runner. Alternates, Landon Slaggert seems like another guy that I think everyone would enjoy in the leadership group. He's somebody that is, he's not the best player on the team. He's not going to, lead you in points or anything like that, but he's got a work ethic that I think can be infectious and a style of play that can, resonate with the group. So that seems like a guy that could be part of that leadership group too. Frank Nazar seems like a guy that could be like that. Ethan Del Mastro as well, I feel like is a guy that, is vocal already as a young guy. So I just could see that evolving as he gets more comfortable in the pro
there's
game.
a lot of candidates, and I know, the Hawks have drafted a lot of guys that are captains, and I know typically the best players are captains, and those are the guys that get drafted. I understand that, but Vlasic, especially as a future captain, makes a ton of sense because you can tell he is seeking the knowledge from the veterans. He talks about it all the time, how him and Alec Martinez are close, and talks about him and Dickinson, and how, he is actively trying to learn how to be a leader because he does see himself as kind of the bridge between the old and the young on this team. And that's kind of the perfect guy. And the way he plays it's like what Pat Maroon said. He doesn't cheat the game, plays the right way. Kind of a quiet leader, but I think he's respected around the league, starting to get a positive reputation with referees. Other teams, national analysts have all started to finally notice Alex Vlasic.
Yeah.
So if I'm picking a captain that's not Bedard, because I do think there is a chance they just give it to Bedard just to give it to him. Not that he wouldn't deserve it, but I think Vlasic is the top. I think he might be the top candidate anyway.
And, on that point, like, just because Connor Bedard comes in as the face of the organization, he's the best player, number 1 overall pick, super talented, all that stuff. You don't also have to throw onto his plate being the captain.
Right.
And he was captain of his junior team. Like, he's been in leadership roles with Team Canada before, amongst his peers and everything. So he could be. Nothing says he couldn't be captain. But Patrick Kane was never captain of the Blackhawks.
No, he was an alternate maybe, 10 years into his career?
Yeah. Again, different locker room.
Sure.
Alex Ovechkin wasn't captain right away in Washington. He was an alternate before he became captain for a few years. So you don't necessarily have to put that on his shoulders right away. So I again, he is the front runner to be the captain because of all those things. He does have the intangibles. He is someone that you can point to and say, like, yeah, he's got leadership capabilities and tendencies and work ethic and all that stuff. But I think that there is other options, and I think it could be something where he's part of a leadership group, doesn't necessarily have to be captain.
No, not at all. And
it could be. I mean, I'm just
sure.
I just think everyone just assumes he will be because of where he was
status.
drafted and the status and all that stuff. But some guys could be more suited to being.
Patrick Kane was also drafted number 1 overall.
Right. Some guys could be more suited to being captain and having that on their plate than other guys.
There's also guys that don't want it.
Yeah.
And I think one thing we know about Connor Bedard is he's been doing his best to kind of blend in. Because he came in with so much hype. He came in as this highly touted and all the cameras. And I mean, the first 2 months of his NHL career, every road city he went to, they'd have to put him in a special room to talk to people. And he did everything he could to just be one of the guys. And I think he still is trying to do that and blend it. I think he does a pretty good job too. Like, if you were just dropped into the Hawks locker room from another country, you wouldn't know by behavior or attitude or disposition that Connor Bedard is the team's biggest star. He does just kind of blend in. Someone in the chat compared him to Tavo. He's not Tavo. He is chatty.
Tavo, you forget, is even there.
Yeah,
sometimes.
he talks, he cracks jokes, he laughs. Like, he doesn't love doing media, but it doesn't mean that he's quiet in any way, shape, or form.
I wouldn't say he doesn't love doing media.
No, he does not love it.
I would say that he understands.
He understands
the obligation that's
Yes.
on him. But yeah, as the locker room has evolved in the second half of the season, I think it's made it a lot easier for him to blend in because now there's other guys of consequence that are in that same group as him of, the next wave of young players and people that, there's some consequence to them being here and talking to them and stuff. Because as much as, when Craig Smith was here, it'd be fun to chat with him. No offense to him, but like, what did it really matter? Because you knew he was here for a few months.
Gone.
So, but now it's, there's Nazar and there's Del Mastro and there's Slaggert and Doc and all these other guys that you see are part of the future that you can, talk to them more, get more perspective on them. And for Bedard, he still does his normal, responsibilities and availabilities and stuff. But it definitely feels like there's less of, there's only Connor to talk to. There's a lot of other guys now that you can talk to.
A lot of interesting guys to talk to as well.
For sure.
Nazar is always thoughtful in his responses. Vlasic, obviously, people see him on this show. He's always insightful. So, yeah, is a much more interesting room this year. I'll give that. Even, you add Pat Maroon and Alec Martinez as veterans with skins on the wall who can, who've got a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
Maroon, by the way, this morning was on Morning Cuppa with Johnny and Colby and talked about what's next for him. And he did mention that he's going to be doing some playoff analysis
Not surprised.
when the playoffs begin. He didn't say where, and I don't know if maybe he's talking to both ESPN and Turner and trying to figure out what makes most sense.
Sure. Yeah.
But it sounds like he'll be there. And he said he hadn't really thought about after hockey yet. Then he's like, but I'm doing media for the playoffs.
Right.
But I think media is going to be in his future, his immediate future too. So
For sure.
interested in seeing that. But yeah, he's been cool to cover. And look, say what you want about the on ice statistics, but Martinez and Maroon especially have brought a lot to that room this year.
Yeah.
So $2 super chat from Windy City Hockey says Laurent Brossois sighting on the Hawks' most recent Instagram post.
Yeah, today was
it is photo day,
picture day, so there is going to be an actual legitimate picture of the Chicago Blackhawks with Laurent Brossois in it. So there will be proof that he was technically on this team this year.
I don't believe it.
I have to see it in the media guide.
Yes. All right, we got time for a couple more, Sarah, probably.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, let's do these quick. Scott, Iowa 23. Aside from it being your job and diehard Hawks fans, why are you watching the last 11 games?
I'm watching for the young guys.
Yep.
I want to see what they do, and again, what they can set up going into next season.
I have enjoyed the games since the deadline more than the games before the deadline.
Well, you just hate Seth Jones. That's why.
That's absolutely. I'm on record as hating Seth Jones.
I just like watching hocky.
Hockey is fun.
Yeah, hockey's fun to watch. I like all the fights, and I want to know who's going to fight next. Over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we going to do?
Baseball.
Flap gums 5 days a week about nothing?
Tune in to CHGO Cubs.
That's actually our whole off-season schedule. That's what it says.
Flap gums about nothing.
Yeah.
All right, let's get one more. We got time for one more? All right, what's your plan if we fall to 3 and miss Schaefer? Oh, and
Misa and
Schaefer are off the board. That's from the Blackhawks Cowboy.
Yeehaw. Porter Martone.
Sure.
That's my number 3.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down with that. Or trade up.
That's not a consolation prize. He's a guy that
he's been in the conversation as number 1, 100%.
For sure.
I just think Misa makes so much sense.
That's my pick.
That would be a lot.
1 or 2. That is my pick.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. We are back tomorrow after Hawks and Devils. Just saw a story, by the way. It is a TNT game, but it will not be blacked out locally. So it'll be on CHSN. I think more people have TNT than CHSN, but whatever.
Careful what promises you make,
It'll be on both. That's from Jeff Agris. Don't blame me. And if you want to read the Blackhawks beat that I wrote yesterday, the rebuild report that Mario published last week, or any of our great stuff at ALLCITY.com, become a diehard today. Scan that QR code on your screen or go to allchgo.com/join or one of the myriad links in the chat that Sarah's throwing up right now. Mm-hmm. Lots of ways to do it. $40 for the year. That's still going, huh? Sweet. Jump on that. Take advantage. And you'll also get a free t-shirt, 20% off all of our merch and events, which includes our takeovers. Mm-hmm. Ours are done for the year, but the Bears are just starting. They've got their draft party coming up at 115 Bourbon Street.
I saw Bulls got one too, right? On the 31st?
They're doing one at Hooters.
Nice.
I'm going to that one.
Yeah, I'm going to that one. I've never been to a Hooters, so.
You've never been to a Hooters?
Get the chicken wings. I heard they're good.
You know what they're famous for?
Yeah. They're chicken wings.
The way they treat their staff and their customers. It's in the copy.
Oh, yeah.
That is what Hooters is most known for.
Agreed.
Yep. All right, we'll talk to everybody tomorrow after Hawks and Devils right here on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, powered by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.